Here are 7 things you need to know about before buying a home in Johns Creek. The first thing you should know is that many homes here in Johns Creek still have a septic tank. So if the home is not in an area where there is public sewer line running through or near the home or in the neighborhood, then the home is built with a septic tank. And so that is kind of a big turnoff for some people, understandably. However, while there are many homes here with septic tanks, you should also know that they're not difficult to manage. There's really not anything that you have to do with a septic tank. I've lived in many homes that have septics, and it's rarely ever something that you have to do. I mean, you're supposed to once every, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, have the septic tank maintenance. Now, that's really kind of a gray area. Some people will say you should maintain it every 2 years. Some people will say 5 to 10 years. In my opinion, again, I've lived in many homes with septic, and it's not something that has to be maintained every 2 to 3 years. Of course, the septic tank company will tell you it has to be done every 2 to 3 years, but not really. I mean, there are many homeowners here who go 20 years and they don't maintain anything, and it's not a problem. It's totally okay for that to go 20 years. I mean, it's not typically a problem until it is a problem, and then now you got a shitty problem. And so that can be difficult to handle. But just keep in mind that a lot of homes here aren't on sewers, so they are on septic. Number 2 on the list of the 7 things that you should know about before moving to Johns Creek is that we also have a lot of homes here that have a basement, and basements are cool, and many people coming from out of state want to find a home that has a basement. And I totally agree that like the amount of space and the like how much you can do with the basement is really exciting. Make it a bonus room or an office or a party room or have a wine cellar or all kinds of different unique fun ideas that you can do in a basement. But you have to also understand that basements are not constructed, or at least should not be constructed, the same way that a room above ground should be constructed. And in general, building practices are kind of behind the times here in Georgia. Like if you come here to Georgia and you come from an area like Florida or California or New York, you'll notice right away that like some of the things that we do here seem strange, and we are a bit behind the times. And so you have to be careful buying a home, especially in the 70s and 80s. Those basements were kind of dicey. It's not uncommon to see that the home has had like water intrusion in the basement if the home was built in like the 70s or 80s. And so many homes from that age now have like a sump pump or something to take care of that water to fix the problem. And so that's great if they have those kinds of solutions to fix that water intrusion. But keep in mind that we still have many homes here with a basement constructed poorly that don't have those solutions. And so something to look out for if you are shopping for a home with a basement. Number 3 on the list of things that you should know before moving to Johns Creek is that Johns Creek actually used to be part of Alpharetta. If you're thinking about buying a home in Johns Creek, be sure to call, text, or email me anytime. If you have any questions about what it's like to move here or live here, I really appreciate everybody who has called me asking me about moving to the area. I'm always happy to help. But Johns Creek was part of Alpharetta, and I think somewhere in the early 2000s, they became their own city. So there is a lot of things still kind of being developed in Johns Creek. For the most part, it's developed and it's its own city, and they have their own police department and fire department and all kinds of things. But it is very similar to Alpharetta as well. Very often people who want to live in Alpharetta, but they can kind of be a little farther away from Alpharetta, choose Johns Creek because the two are so similar. The vibe of the homes, the vibe of the city, the shopping is all very similar. The demographics, the family, it's all very similar in Johns Creek as it is in Alpharetta. So definitely a lot of similarities there because they used to be all Alpharetta. The next thing you should know is the average home price in this city. In the last 90 days or so, the average sold price in Johns Creek has been 825,000. So it's definitely up there. You can find homes in Johns Creek as low as 500,000, maybe 450 if you're looking for like a fixer upper that is not move in ready by any means. You can find something at like 450, but it's going to be super rough. But then again, average is about 825, and so this is for like a 4-bed 3-bath home. You should expect about 825, and then houses go up as high as 3 or 4 million in Johns Creek. So that's why we've got that average at 825. Totally doable to find a 3-bed 2-bath home closer to the 700s, maybe high 600s in Johns Creek. Number 5 on the list of the 7 things that you should know before moving to Johns Creek is how much demand for homes and demand among buyers there is in Johns Creek. There is a lot of people who want to live in this area. The average amount of days that a home is on the market before finding a buyer in Johns Creek is only 4 days in the last 90 days. I just checked. 4 days. I mean, this means that homes are going on the market on a Thursday or Friday, and they're almost all sold by Monday. They've got their open houses on the weekend, all the showings, and so they are going very quickly still in Johns Creek. The same cannot be said for other parts of Metro Atlanta. There's still many other cities where it takes, 2, 3, maybe even 4 weeks average for a home seller to find a buyer. But in Johns Creek, man, everybody wants to live there. And so homes do not last very long. Again, 4 days is the average. So the home that's priced well and it's move-in ready and it's in a great neighborhood, those homes, I mean, maybe 1 or 2 days for like the best homes. 4 days is kind of like an average home, and then maybe if it's like a fixer upper, needs some work, you might be looking at like 7 or 8 days. So it's tough, man. It's tough to buy a home in Johns Creek. You definitely have to have your ducks in a row. You have to be ready. Some good advice for being ready to jump on a home and be getting the advantage over other buyers. One of the most important things you can do is have a pre-approval, having already spoken to a bank and have that pre-approval ready to go. The worst thing you could do is like find the home of your dreams in Johns Creek, and then you really want to make an offer, but like the seller would never accept an offer without a pre-approval. So now you got to call your bank, and of course your bank's not going to answer the phone on weekends. So you don't get that pre-approval until Monday. And then like by that point, you've pretty much lost the home if you don't have that pre-approval ready to go. And then of course, cash is definitely helpful. It's helpful to have cash. That's a good way to get the advantage over other buyers. But keep in mind, cash is not like absolutely the best thing. Like if you have cash, you can lowball offers. Like the difference between a cash offer and a conventional loan offer is not very much difference. They're considered very similarly among many sellers. In fact, for the homes that I list, I regularly advise the seller, hey, the difference between a cash offer and a conventional loan offer is almost nothing. I mean, when a lender pre-approves a buyer for a conventional loan, that means that they are like 99% of the time to be approved for that loan. So it's not like you can have cash and you have a huge advantage over buyers. It's a minor advantage over other buyers with a loan. Number 6 on the list is that Johns Creek doesn't have really good interstate access. Like because it used to be part of Alpharetta, for the most part, the interstate runs through Alpharetta, and it's not actually an interstate. It's Highway 400. I know y'all are going to comment and tell me, hey, 400 is not an interstate. I just mean the main road that goes through Alpharetta that allows you to get to the rest of Atlanta and access the interstate. It goes through Alpharetta, but that main road doesn't go so much through Johns Creek. So the reason why this is important is because if you lived in Alpharetta but were working in Atlanta, you might be looking at a 45-minute commute, give or take 15 minutes, depending on traffic. But because you'd have to get to the highway from Johns Creek first, you can potentially add an additional 15 minutes to that commute. And so when you're looking at 45 minutes to an hour commute already, an additional 15 minutes kind of sucks. So I think a lot of people who live in Johns Creek don't necessarily work in Atlanta. Maybe they work in one of the surrounding cities, maybe Alpharetta or somewhere in Gwinnett County, maybe Norcross, Sandy Springs, somewhere around there. And so keep in mind that, again, not a major highway or interstate running through Johns Creek. And then number 7 on the list of things you should know is parks. Tons of parks in Johns Creek. In fact, there are so many great things about living in Johns Creek. There's also, however, some really bad things about living in Johns Creek. And so I've actually made an entire video of the pros and the cons of living in this city. You can check it out right here. I'll see you in the next video.